case of the Ransack Lab, 2 and a blue for a rare. Instants and sorceries you cast cost 1 less to cast. To solve, you've cast 4 or more instants or sorcery spells this turn. When it's solved, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, draw a card. I think this card is pretty bad everywhere. I think you can make...
Oh, you read a bad one this time?
Yeah, I think you can make this maybe playable in Commander if you have a way to cast free spells. Like,
this card is not good.
Think of this in your Arcane Bombardment, right? Because those are like spell casts.
Yeah, but that's weird. Like,
who cares about
weird going to big spells immediately? I don't know. I don't think this in like bad. A crazy storm deck like.
Storm doesn't cast. I mean, you're casting a lot of spells before storming, but storm spells typically you're casting artifacts that are cheap because storm just counts spell casts. When storm actually triggers, they're not casts; they're copies. And this specifically has to be instants or sorceries. In limited, this card is
Cascade.
Awful. Cascade.
Yes, in limited,
but Cascade is on creatures. Yeah. I just think this card is
Cascade.
Yeah, or Cascade. I was thinking, what's the new Cascade? What did they just print? That's not Cascade.
Oh, Explorer, not Explorer. The other one.
Yeah, whatever. That one. Yeah, I mean, but first of all, you're paying 3 mana to basically do nothing. If you play this card in limited, you're almost certainly losing the game.
Yep. On to the next one.
Costs too much, too hard to do.
Yeah. No one cares. All right.
Conspiracy Unraveler. 5 and 2 blue. So 7.
That's
Creeper
big.
Sphinx Detective at Mythic. And it's a 6/6 flyer. Damn. First of all,
that foil
she slays. This foil is going to do terrible things.
I can't wait to see the alternate art of this.
Yeah, exactly. You may collect evidence 10 rather than pay the mana cost for spells that you cast. To collect evidence 10, exile cards from your total mana value 10 or greater from your graveyard.
So for every spell you have to do that?
Yes.
It's not just once.
But I mean, if you've got just bombs,
so
you're turning
just...
through a bunch of little spells, like this is like a weird, different deck to my kind of deck. It's like low to the ground version of my deck. Because obviously I only care about casting spells.
You have to. You have to play huge creatures, right? And you have to self-mill in order for this to really do anything.
Yeah.
In limited, this seems...
How is a 6/6 flying creature
for 7?
But because that is not super easy to get right away. That's all it is for a turn or two, right?
So this is something else that you'll learn in limited. 7 is astronomically higher than 6. Which is a weird thing to say, but with how much draw fixing... You'd think. But with how much draw fixing and everything there is in the game and how you build your deck, like, if you were to graph all the limited games played, the number of games that you reach 6 mana, pretty high. The number you reach 7 mana, not very high.
Really hard.
I will say, there's a ton of things that investigate in this set, and I think these games seem to be games that will be slower, so maybe the high end will be more important.
I don't think in limited you're ever using this thing's ability. I think it's a 6/6 flyer for 7. Like, very rarely. Unless you can build self-mill. Unless self-mill is supported.
I'm saying if it's like an insanely slow meta.
Yeah. I think it's fine. If there's a self-mill theme that is self-sustaining and viable, we've seen a couple cards now that kind of suggest that it might be. I think collecting evidence in general promotes self-milling. You could call self-milling detective work. in Commander, this is just like, I'm not sure why you're doing this. You're just
Yeah,
playing
there are better
omniscience
ways
or
to do
something.
this for sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
it's cute. It's a cute card.
I mean, this could be a cool card to reanimate if you've got a self mill.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather reanimate like a Traxxas or something.
All right. We're on to the Coveted Falcon. It's
Ooh.
1 and 2 blue artifact creature.
That's pretty badass.
Bird. It's a rare.
Bird,
it's
bird,
a 1/4. Has flying. Okay.
As birds do.
Right. It's a coveted one, so
Yep.
it's probably trained.
Yep.
Whenever Coveted Falcon attacks, gain control of creature permanent you own, but don't control. What does that even mean? What does that part mean?
Yeah, so a permanent you own but don't control. So
Very
it's,
neat.
if someone has taken control of a permanent you own, which can happen in
allows you to
games,
take it
Yeah.
back.
not typically in limited.
Yeah. Alright,
Yeah,
so
right.
disguise 1 plus a blue.
Yeah,
right?
one in a blue. Yep.
Alright. When Coveted Falcon is turned face up, target opponent gains control of any number of target permanents you control. Draw a card for each one they gained control of this way. That.
That was wild. This is where Magic Design has got to in the year of our Lord
I'm
2024.
too much of a Magic noob to really understand
Yeah,
why
I
you
mean-
would play this card.
it is actually pretty good, I think.
I think in certain cases this card could be
It's pretty good.
ridiculous. Like it
That's usually what a lot of the
Yeah.
longer
Very
worded cards are for me.
Yeah, it's actually very hard to be a noob in Magic now because this is like Magic 301 the card, like if it was
Yeah.
classes, because they're so far down the line of doing Magic Design that they're done with anything simple. They have to do real edgelord shit like this. But I love it. Gabe likes it.
Yeah.
Do you get what this is really wanting to do, Jacob?
No.
No. Yeah, what how could he?
Okay, so when you obviously want to disguise this card because the whole point is you give your opponent all your shit. First of all, this has a huge butt and is unlikely to kill with 1 power.
Yeah.
So
And-
it's easy to
and you
block
can-
the things that you're giving them.
And you can flip the disguise at instant speed. Always remember that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So on top of that, this is drawing you a ton of cards, hopefully like 2-3 cards maybe. And so then when you attack, you're getting something back, and it's a flyer, so it has evasion to attack easily, and it's got a big butt, so they're unlikely to kill it. So you're highly likely to get your things back, and you've drawn a lot of cards. This is very good limited, probably.
So, but giving your opponent
Not very good.
control of your
I would say
cards,
a B+.
that just puts it on their side of the board, pretty much, right?
Well, yeah, it lets them control it. They get to use it entirely as if it was theirs.
Yeah.
But the idea is that, so let's take the most simplest case for this, is you've disguised it and you have a clue on the table.
Okay.
You declare combat, and then before they even have a chance to do blockers, you flip it. You give them the clue, you draw a card, you hit them for 1 damage, you take back the clue. This is assuming that they don't have 2 mana to immediately sack your clue. So it doesn't have to be a clue. It can be in anything. It can be a land. Just give them one of your
It
lands,
could be
and then
two
just take it
small
back
creatures.
immediately.
Okay.
It could
So-
be 2 small creatures.
Yeah, or it could be two small creatures. Or it could be all your land. Or not all, but imagine in the late game, you have 8 land. Both people are
Right,
kind of
yeah,
stalled
yeah,
out.
yeah.
You have 8 lands. You're take 4 of my lands because you also have 8, and 12 doesn't matter.
Yeah, they have one
I
card
dr-
in their hand.
Yeah,
Who cares?
I draw 4 cards. I get back one of my lands.
Yeah, that's huge.
Or maybe in the
Yeah,
late game,
yeah, yeah.
let's say you have 3 clues. You're take 3 clues.
That's absolutely broken.
Yeah, you're take 3 clues. I immediately draw 4 of them. You have to spend mana too, which means you aren't playing stuff.
Yeah.
You know. But the real fun. So now we're kind of talking about limited stuff. I think this card's good in limited. Maybe it could even be played in constructed too. It is an artifact. Maybe, probably not. But where this gets really fun is Gabe's favorite thing to say, Commander. Because in Commander, you can play shit that is terrible to control.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Like,
You just
And there are a
garbage
bunch
them.
of cards that work around that and like
yeah,
giving your things away.
Yeah.
there are cards that say you lose the game if you don't like. There's a black card that's called like Pact with the Devil or something of that fact, or
Mhm.
like Demonic Pact. It's like one black, 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 and it has 5 modes on it, and it says every turn pick a mode you haven't picked before, and it's like 4 broken things, and one of them is lose the game. So
So you
you
just give it
pick, you
away.
pick, yeah, you pick the first 4, and then you give it to somebody, and they have to pick.
You're like, bye.
You lose the game.
Or they have to sack it somehow.
Yeah, or sack it
just
somehow, right.
remove it.
Or kill it. Yeah,
So-
you just remove it.
It's a very fun card. Very fun.
Yeah. I really
That's
love
so
that card.
annoying.
Yeah. I'm not. I think it's good and limited. But it's also very slow. It's very slow and limited. It's a 1/4 for 3 flyer, which is already playable. So yeah, it's good and limited. It's fun. You're probably gonna take it and play it because it's fun. Cryptic Coat, 2 and a blue for an artifact equipment. Do you know what equipment is?
Yeah.
Cool. It's a rare. When Cryptic Coat enters the battlefield, cloak the top card of your library. Don't know what that means. Then attach Cryptic Cloak to it. To cloak a card, put it on the battlefield face down as a 2/2 creature with War 2. Oh. Cloaking is a forced disguise, and it might not even be a creature that you're cloaking.
Right.
Interesting.
So it makes a 2/2 out of the card. Turn face up at any time for its mana cost if it's a creature. So if you cloak a non-creature, it's just always that. If you cloak any creature, even if it doesn't have disguise, it can uncloak for its mana cost at any time, so as an instant. It gains +1/+0 and can't be blocked. Okay, hold the fort. So this is making a 3/2 unblockable with War 2 for 3.
Crap.
In limited, that is very good.
Yeah.
Very good. And you can bounce it.
And you can bounce it back
You
to your
bounce
hand.
it to your hand.
Do it more.
So let's. Okay, hold on. So that bounce ability says round trip for 5 mana. It creates a 2/2. So it's a recurring. Like it's like has buyback in a sense, right? Because if you do the full round trip, right, you pay 3 and then you pay 2.
Yeah. 3 and 2 blue.
3 and 2. The more likely way to do it is you pay 3 the first time, you have the 3/2, you hit them with it, then you go 2/3. But it's still 5 mana, right? But you're doing the 2 first.
overall.
2/3, because then you have another 3/2, and then 2/3, then you have another 3/2. And because this is equipment, even if they kill the creatures, they're not getting rid of this thing. This is an absolute ass beating unlimited.
Mm-hmm.
This is
Yeah, because
absolute
they kill the
ass beating.
creature that the coat is on.
Yeah.
And you keep the coat.
Yeah, you keep the
and then
cryptic
you can
code.
just put it
Or
back
it's
in your
just
hand and play it
simply
again.
And again, the flavor of this is just Magic designers are so good. Like it's like a self-controlling coat that's like force cloaking people and like they can't get blocked because they're cloaked, but then it also just like fucking flits about and goes cloak something else.
Yeah.
It's like
This
Doctor
card is
Strange's
cool.
coat, just flying around grabbing people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The Marvel references won't stop. We'll see
Yeah,
another
they
card
can't
that comes
come
in.
in.
Though.
Can't stop, won't stop.
Yeah, so this is good. I don't think it really has any other application other than limited, but it's a house limited.
But it's a really cool card.
Yeah, it's really cool. Cool design. All right.
All right,
Gabe?
Forensic Gadgeteer. 2 and a blue. Creature, Valken,
Yep.
Artificer, Detective at rare, and it's a 2/3. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, interesting, always, investigate.
Yeah.
Activated abilities of artifacts you control cost 1 less to activate. This effect can't reduce the mana cost to less than 1 mana.
Yeah. So they don't let you be full abusive. This seems
It's
good.
still really good. It's
That seems
really good. Yeah, so you can now pop clues for 1. You're making a ton of. So this is really good and limited. First of all, if you're and it's blue, there's a lot of investigating. There's no way that this isn't good in the set.
Yeah.
For limited.
It's good.
And
it's also a little slow, but it draws you a bunch of cards.
It draws you so many cards. If this is
More
once
artifacts.
again, if this is a slower meta, this card is nuts.
Yeah. Well, you need a lot of artifacts in your deck for sure. I think this is a pretty obvious
No way
commander.
this set doesn't have on artifacts. I mean,
Yeah.
I haven't seen enough of this set yet, but like I'm assuming.
I wanna play this in my Stranger Things commander deck, right? Because my whole thing is
Sure,
trying to
sure.
get to the time sieve loop of 5 artifacts, and this
Ooh.
says every artifact gives you 2 artifacts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that thing already makes a bunch of clues. So yeah, I think this card will. This is like your $5 to $7 range sort of card.
Fair.
And would be good and limited, but I don't think any constructed real viability, to be honest. Wait, it also
Really?
does it to. It also does it to. No, it just does it to artifacts. Yeah, I don't think. You're not really playing artifacts that cost.
It's a great.
I'm sorry. I'm calling an audible here. You don't get to go.
Okay.
This is a special one for me, as Gabe called an article initially. Intrude on the Mind, the callback to one of my favorite cards of all time, whose art is somewhere, Fact or Fiction. It's 3 and 2 blue for an instant at Mythic. Reveal the top 5 cards of your library. Separate them into 2 piles. An opponent chooses one of those piles. Put that pile into your hand, the other into your graveyard. Then you create a 0/0 colorless Lepter artifact creature token with flying, and you put a 1/1 token on it for each card put into your graveyard this way. So, Fact or Fiction, for those who don't know, costs 3 and a blue, is an instant. Also 5 cards. Your opponent puts them into 2 piles. You pick one. The other goes into the graveyard. So, the important part is that both of those cards, the cards that are not picked, go into the graveyard. That's much better than on the bottom of the library, which is what they typically do, because that's still material that's in your graveyard.
Right.
This makes a creature. Fact or Fiction does not make a creature, so that makes this better than Fact or Fiction. This costs 1 more blue mana than Fact or Fiction. That's a lot worse than Fact or Fiction. But the number one way that this is a lot worse than Fact or Fiction is the dynamic of forcing your opponent to create the piles and you getting to choose the pile is much harder for them to do than you creating the piles.
What if you have a card in your hand that says play things from your graveyard, like we've already read?
Yeah, for sure. Then it's fine either way. And indeed, in Commander and other things, you'll be doing
just
that.
very good.
Yeah. But I'm like the actual text of the ability, because this has constructed implications. Like this is I'm evaluating this outside of Commander now. This is like because Fact or Fiction had constructed applications. So the reason this card, so the ability of this card is significantly worse than Fact or Fiction, because you're creating the piles of cards and your opponent's getting to choose rather than the other way around. Because then you don't always get what you want necessarily. It gives your opponent has the agency instead of you. Because like, for instance, in Fact or Fiction, like imagine you Fact or Fiction and your opponent's looking at the 5 cards to make piles, and it's like 2 counter spells and a bomb. Or even worse, 2 counter spells and another Fact or Fiction. And like 2 lands. Like, what, how do they separate it that you don't get something good? The reason this card now brings it back up to kind of Fact or Fiction's levels, as let's game out what this is, because you're creating the piles. Let's say your pile is like small creature, land, huge creature. And what are you're gonna like make a pile 4/1. One's the huge creature, and then 4 cards. So if they give you the huge creature and you don't get the 4 cards, you get a 4/4 flyer at instant speed for 5 and a really good creature. Or you draw 4 cards and still get a 1/1 flyer. Which a 1/1
that
flyer
can also block at instant speed.
Yeah, that can block at instant speed and is an artifact and flies. Like this card is very good. It's very good.
This card is so good.
You can even 5/0. Be like, do you want me to play a 5/5 flyer at instant speed for 5 at the end of your turn, or do I draw 5 cards? You know? Wild that they printed this. Honestly, I bet there is quite a bit of
somebody
debate.
Look at you and go.
I'm very interested to see what the price of this card ends up being.
Oh, by the way, the price of this last card is currently 11, but that's inflated.
Yeah,
that's inflated.
That's a $3 or $4 card probably.
This card is a mythic, and since it's so close to Fact or Fiction, which is a huge fan favorite, my prediction is that this card will be significantly overvalued.
Interesting. It's just
it could also end up being broken. 15, very good. It could also end up being broken.
It's 1482.
You get to go.
All right, Lost in the Maze. X times
It just means pay anything.
pay anything plus 2 blue.
Hmm.
It's an enchantment that's a rare, and it has flash. When Lost in the Maze enters the battlefield, tap X target creatures. Put a stun counter on each of these creatures you don't control. That just means they can't do anything for a turn, right?
Yeah, it means they don't untap at the next untap step.
Okay. Tap creatures you control have hexproof.
By
the way.
Yeah.
What a
I
wacky
didn't realize it at first that was another
Yeah.
text. I thought it was just part of the.
So
You can blink this card.
Yeah, it's flash.
no, you can't blink the card.
You can't. When Lost in the Maze enters the battlefield,
Yeah. X,
Oh, but
X,
it's an
X will be zero. X will
card.
be zero.
you
when
have to
blink
return
it.
it to hand. You have to return it to
Yeah,
hand.
you return it to your hand. But so this is what's called burying the lead. So what the enchantment actually does is that last sentence. Tap creatures you control have hexproof. It's like, let's say you've attacked with stuff, right? And on your opponent's turn, they're like,
You're like, no.
yeah, they're like, kill one of your biggest creature that attacked me last turn, and you're just like, even if you just have 2 mana, X can be 0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like counterspell.
Yeah.
It's a counterspell for targeted removal for 2 mana.
This card is ridiculous.
But then imagine this case. Imagine you don't have 2 mana. Imagine you have 4 mana. Imagine. Oh my god. Think of how sick this is. Oh my god, this card is ridiculous, dude.
This card is insane.
Imagine you have 4 mana up, you attacked with something, and you have even a good thing untapped, and they want to attack you with something big. So, since they want to attack you and you have a big thing untapped, pre-combat main phase, they're going to kill your untapped thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you go for 4 mana in response, tap my big creature, tap your big creature. Your big creature gets a stun counter, doesn't even untap next turn. Also, both of my tapped creatures now have hexproof, counter your spell. The game's over.
Yeah, that's a huge
And that's
turn.
4.
That's a huge turn.
Or just tap down your whole team. They all have stun counters.
Yeah.
Also, my attacking stuff has hexproof.
That's a huge turnaround. It's
This-
just
This is a really cool card.
This card is.
your
really
opponent is gonna go from really, really happy to really, really
There has
sad.
never
Yeah.
been a card like this ever
Yeah.
before.
Yeah, this is wild. This is why
Nice.
and I've already praised them enough, I think. But this is why Magic is the greatest game in the world. They have the best designers. Like this design is just
I
wild.
think- this
This is
design
a
is amazing.
$24 card.
No, it's not. But it's
No,
cool.
no,
It's
no,
cool.
no.
Yeah, I don't think it's that good in
I think
Commander.
it's
really.
good. I think it's good.
I don't even know if it's constructed good, to be honest. But limited's my favorite thing, so that's the lens I look through and everything. And yeah, I'm first picking this for sure. $7. Don't take pre-release prices.
Yeah, pre-release prices
they're
are really
nonsense.
bad.
They're nonsense. All right, so it's back to me now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You just went right. Yeah, it gives me.
Yeah,
It's
but
Gabe.
It's me,
you
Gabe.
went out third.
I know I audited.
I mean, it doesn't matter. Who wants
It
to
doesn't
read
matter.
it? Not I.
I'll read it.
Okay.
Props, Edict, Memory,
I'm just
or
like,
Eidetic, Prof's Eidetic,
yeah, I did
Memory.
it. I think. Mm-hmm.
1 in a blue, legendary enchantment at rare. When Prof's Eidetic Memory enters the battlefield, draw a card. You have no maximum hand size. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you've drawn more than 1 card this turn, put X/1/1 counters on target creature you control, where X is the number of cards you've drawn this turn -1.
They could not fit more words on every card.
It's a small essay, but this card. So this card is
Yes.
very bad in limited, but unless there's this card has to be bad in limited, but I do think it has a potential to be good in other formats.
Having a
I don't think this card is bad and limited.
Really,
So what this
Because you
card
investigate.
this yes, nice. Actually, very good call before I got there.
Yeah, really.
But this initially reads very much like a green card. Read this like it was green. It's 1 in a green. Draw a card. Target creature you get gets a +1/+1 counter.
Yeah.
Right, just by
Well,
itself.
it obviously makes you think of like Simic 1/1
It's like
counters.
that tree.
Yeah. Exactly, with Simic 1/1 counters. But just by itself, it's giving something a 1/1 counter, right? Because it draws you a card, and that'll be more than one. And then, exactly like you said, with clues, I think the fact that it specifically triggers only at one time during your turn is important, because it would actually be too good in Limited if it just always triggered, right? Like, every time you drew a card past your first one, if it just always did a 1/1 counter, then it would turn all your clues into combat tricks, and that would just make the game unplayable for your opponent. It does also make you spend your mana on clues pre-combat, which is very suboptimal. You're not excited about doing that because But yeah, maybe even in a 1/1 counter deck, like in Commander or something. But yeah, I don't think it's very powerful. But I would play it limited. I'd try it. Imagine this with the other Intrude on the Mind. My God. My God. The joke being that it doesn't actually draw you any cards and actually does nothing with this.
Yeah, literally nothing.
It just puts them into your hand. Nice. Reenact the crime.
Love the name of this card.
1 blue. Instant. Exile target non-land card at rare. Exile target non-land card in a graveyard that was put there from anywhere this turn. Copy it. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. So, yeah. So, yeah. There has been a hubbub. There has been a hubbub about this card.
Yeah.
It seems good.
What?
It seems good.
Is this card like historic good?
Yeah, I'm not good enough to understand everything that this can do. But it seems like it can do.
Honestly.
Yeah, it seems like it can do a lot. A lot of shenanigans can be accomplished. So anything that can put stuff like Entomb. Entomb's 1 black mana. Search your library for any card and put it in your graveyard. So that obviously does stuff with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a pretty extreme mana cheat. It's also a graveyard. Not yours.
Yeah.
So it's a hate piece as well.
Like, you could kill something of theirs and then just copy it.
Your opponent entombs something to do this, and you do it first.
It's a hate piece also for graveyard decks.
Right.
It also is a counterspell in counterspell matchups. It can just do it's non-land card. It can just become counterspell. It can become whatever. Yeah. It's whatever the best thing you or your opponent has played this game for 4 mana.
Yeah. Well, it has to be put there this turn.
Sometimes.
This turn. Good caveat. Good caveat. It is this turn.
It is this turn.
You can't counter a counter with it unless something's already been countered.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, also if something is on the stack, like if you responded to like 4 things, they're not going to the graveyard actively until the stack resolves.
Well, you can elect to start resolving the stack though.
Oh.
So like if you're actually in a counter war and you like want to do this, you just let the counter war resolve a little bit because that will be sending things to the graveyard. Because like the stack unwinds, things resolve one at a time. So you just go all the way back down to the base spell. Then right before the base spell finally resolves, then you do this.
Yeah.
But yeah, this card's amazing. It might be bannable. People, again, smart people that know all of the cards were like, well, if you just do this into this and then spaghetti.
Huzzah!
Yeah.
Ratatouille.
So cool. A really cool card. $7. That's exactly what I would have said. Not really.
Yeah, I would have said more.
Undervalued by more.
Steamcoal Scholar.
Well, it's all you.
2 and a blue creature. Weird detective.
Pretty weird.
That's new. Rare. It's a 2/2. It's flying vigilance. When Steamcoal Scholar I don't know why I want to say it like that. Enters the battlefield, draw 2 cards. Then discard 2 cards unless you discard an instant or sorcery card. Or a creature with flying.
Weird.
This feels like an uncommon, to be honest.
Yeah, literally.
I could see them print like it would
So
be a
you
really
just
good
draw
uncommon.
1 card.
Yeah. But I mean, even drawing 2, discarding 2 is really good in limited. Like it's really
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah, this
Sure.
is very good in limited because it's a 2/2 flyer vigilance.
No, these are the little things we have to just look for. This is an evidence empowerer as well.
Oh, yeah.
Anything that cycles through cards
Absolutely.
like this, looting, rummaging,
Absolutely.
very attractive.
That's weird.
Yep. Yeah. Self mill of any kind.
Weird detected.
Yeah.
God.
That was terrible.
Yeah, this card is very good.
It's very good and limited. I don't hate it in some other things as well. I mean, think about this.
Commander.
You play this, you draw 2, in response, your opponent plays Orcish Bowmasters, kills this, hits something else for 1, and makes a 3/3.
Well, also any deck
That works.
playing Delve, any graveyard deck, like.
Yeah, it's neat. It's
Good.
neat. I like it. It's gonna be good and limited for sure. I mean, already a 2/2 vigilance for 3 is already entirely playable, and it's just all upside from there.
Yeah. All right.
I think ideally if I had this card, I would for sure play that big 6/6 flyer for 7.
Yeah.
So I would be like, draw it, discard it, which nets me a card. Also, massive evidence in my.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
graveyard.
Yeah, that is.